Hello creative friends and welcome to this 18th entry of the Thoughtful Knitter video journal. My name is Ailey and I am coming to you from my home in the far north of the Scottish mainland. It is really lovely to be in your company, whether that's for the first time or whether you have spent many an hour with me before. It is wonderful to be with you again. It is currently mid-March 2024 and I have just started to think about emerging from my winter hibernation. So during that time I have been making all of the cosy projects, and I also ran the Coorie In MAL, which ran from December through January and to the end of February. So that's finished now, and at the end of this video I'm going to announce the winners for that make along. Apologies for not being present on YouTube during that time, but I really did just hibernate with my crafts. So yeah, I took it to heart. So yeah, I'll put that at the end in case there are people who didn't take part and aren't interested. Apart from that, we'll be back to talking about what I've been up to over that hibernation. I thought I would just share the kind of cozy projects that I finished during the make along, and I'll also tell you what I'm working on at the moment. And the other thing is I've got quite an exciting announcement of something that I'm looking forward to this year, so I'll get to that very shortly. But before I do so, I think I better let you know where you can find me online, because yeah, I don't seem to be very good at keeping up with YouTube these days. So if you want to follow me outside of YouTube, I've got my own Instagram account where I mostly share my makes. I've also got an Instagram account for the channel where I make most of my announcements, all of my announcements to do with the channel. And I've also got my Ravelry account if you want to follow there, or if you can access Ravelry. So I'll put all that up on the screen, or here probably. And what else? Everything that I chat about will be linked in the description box below, which you can get. I think it's down in this corner, and you just click more next to the video, or next to the little bit that says the Thoughtful Knitter and the titles for the video, and then it says more, and it'll drop down there and give you everything, links to everything that I chat about. If you're watching on a TV and can't get to that, then the best place to find kind of information on my projects would be on Ravelry, if you just go on to my projects on there. And the only other thing to say is that my videos are always divided up into chapters for easy navigation. And I think that's about it. That's all the kind of blurb to get started with. So let's not dilly-dally any further. I'm too excited about this. So I have been chatting to a friend who owns a company that organises bespoke tours around Scotland, mostly around kind of areas that aren't too touristy. And I had been speaking to him early on this year about possibly putting together a wool and walk-in trip. So my thinking was I would really like to go to one of the yarn festivals, which is quite difficult for me because I live so far away and I have to factor in extra travel and things. And when it is going so far, I kind of want to spend as much time as possible down at the destination. And I also prefer the meeting of people than the buying of the yarn. So I had this great idea, or I think it's a great idea, of getting a wee posse together to attend a festival and then also spend a few days doing textile related, woolly related activities in beautiful places in Scotland, with the option of having a walk-in also, because Martin, who is the owner and operator of Roam in Scotland, he is a qualified trail guide and mountain guide. So anyway, we have been chatting and Martin has put together a really lovely itinerary, a 3-day trip with 2 nights accommodation included, to coincide with Glasgow School of Yarn. So hands up straight away, this is not a money making scheme for me. Martin will be dealing with all the booking and all the arranging and things. I'll just be going as a participant. But it sounded, what he came up with just sounded great. So what we're proposing is, I'll just get my details. It's, like I said, it's a 3-day and 2-night trip, and it's going to be pick up and drop off in Edinburgh, and it's from the 19th to the 21st of October. Now I realise this is not ideal because it is the same weekend as Rhinebeck over in the States, but I'm sure there are very, very many knitters out there and yarn enthusiasts who are not attending Rhinebeck, like me. So yeah, it's going to be from the 19th to the 21st of October. We're going to be based in southern Scotland, and we're going to include, so there's going to be a trip to Glasgow School of Yarn, there's going to be a trip to the New Lanark Heritage Mill, which is a World Heritage Site. We're also going to spend time in the Borders, going to Hoyk and Galashiels and Melrose. We're going to visit the, I think it's a textile roundhouse it's called, in Hoyk. We're going to visit the Great Tapestry of Scotland in Galashiels, and there will be time at Melrose Abbey or walking in the Eildon Hills. So I'm excited. I think it's really well priced. I've seen quite a lot of wool trips that are very expensive, but yeah, so I think it's going to be accessible. Don't be put off by the walk-in element. You don't have to take part in that, and even if you do, it won't be mountain hiking or anything like that. It will be quite gentle and tailored to the pace of the slowest of the group. Feel free also to, if you want to come and bring a non-knitting, non-crafting partner, there would be space for them too. There's going to be options of things to do that aren't wool, yarn, textile related. And so, for example, when most people go to Glasgow School of Yarn, there's an option to go up to Loch Lomond and walk around there. Yeah, so I think that's all I have to say about that. If you're interested, spaces are limited. It's a small company. We'll be travelling by a tour bus, which is just a minibus. And yeah, so if you're interested, like I said, all booking is going to be through Roaming Scotland themselves. But if you want to get in touch with me initially to ask any questions, you can do so by emailing me on thethoughtfulknitter@gmail.com, and I can pass on the proposed itinerary, which has all the full costing and everything involved. And yeah, we can take it from there. I am really, really hopeful that I can get a few folk to come along with me. I live pretty remotely and don't see an awful lot of people who are quite as enthusiastic about this hobby as I am, so it would be lovely to spend some time with you guys and do so while we're doing fun things. So yeah, that was my exciting announcement. I'm hopeful that 6 months notice is enough for folk to kind of get their heads around it and make the logistical arrangements to get here. I think travelling, pick up and drop off in Edinburgh should make that easier for people who are coming a distance. But obviously people who are Scotland based are most welcome to. And yeah, that is my announcement. So I will stop blethering on and actually get into the crafting. I'm going to be pretty succinct, I hope, today, because I do not want this to go on too long. And yeah, wish me luck with that. I'm not going to talk about what I'm wearing today because I do not have any knitwear on. Despite what you're seeing here with the lighting, it is actually a really, really bright day. We are being treated to some beautiful spring sunshine, but the time of year and the facing of my house means that it is really bright and really hot in my sitting room at the moment because the sun is just beating in. So yeah, no woolens today. But I do have a woolly thing here. I'll quickly say this is the Parallelogram, I think it's called, by Stephen West, and I knitted it in double knit instead of 4-ply as a baby blanket. I finished it ages ago. I have not woven in my ends. I don't have anyone to give it to at the moment, and I just thought it's quite nice in the back of this chair, which is a bit old and ugly the rest of the time, so I flung it over there for a bit of background. So yeah, I need to calm down, slow down, but still get on to the next part. So let's get on to let's go on to finished objects. As you can imagine, I have quite a few finished objects because it's been like 4 months since I last did an episode. So I'm just going to speak about the things that I did for the Coorie In MAL. So the things that were like the small, cosy, joy-filled projects that came after my prep for like Christmas presents and before I started thinking about makes for myself for this year. This is all just little joyful projects. I think this is going to be a bit of a disaster because the light situation is I'm very soon going to have a blinding light coming across this way. So if I'm going really fast, I'm sorry. Anyway, the things that I worked on for the Coorie In MAL, I started off because it was ahead of Christmas. I'd finished my gift knits, I'd finished my Christmas jumper, and then I just wanted to do fun things for Christmas. So I crocheted this little guy. Oh, there he is. So he is a Happy Mr. Grinch, I think the pattern is called, and I can't remember who it's by. I'll put it on the screen. So he was good fun. He was just a little crocheted amigurumi, and then I knitted a little scarf for him. Super quick and lots of fun. I gave him blue eyes because the Grinch has got blue eyes when he's happy at the end, when his heart has grown 3 sizes or 2 sizes. Yeah, not a lot to say about that. I used leftovers. I think this was Filcolana Arvetta in some colour or another, green. And I think this was maybe Drops Baby Merino. Both of these were leftovers that I had from previous, in fact from this last year's Christmas jumpers for my nephews and niece. So that was project number 1. Project number 2 was this, which you can't particularly see well. I'll put a picture in of what it is. I had some requests for me to speak about this at length. Now, I'm not going to because it's 3 months after Christmas or almost, so it's completely seasonally inappropriate. But what I did was I got these wire micro lights out of a bargain home store here called, what's it called? B&M, I think it's called. I was quite close to Christmas, so everything was half price. I used 2 packets of these, and I used the pattern Starna, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. I knitted it, I think I knitted the first round and started a bit further in and knitted into the centre, and then at the end I used slightly thicker, what's this called, copper wire, to thread it around the edges here and bend it into shape, and then make this bit for going on top of the Christmas tree. I'm really chuffed with it. It looked really, really good. My hands were not so chuffed. It was pretty hard going, and I'm hoping that I haven't wrecked my needles that I used for it. But yeah, it was really effective at the time, and I enjoyed having it on top of my tree during the festive season. So that was me, Christmas over. The next thing that I worked on was the one that I had told you about in the last episode. I was planning to knit a pattern by Alex of a hen in the Glen, and I was planning to knit the set. She's got a cowl and mitten set called The Ties That Bind Us. Spoiler alert, I only got the cowl done. This is it. It is super cozy. It's got this great cord here that you can pull in to tighten it around your neck at the top to keep you warm. And it's got this really lovely pattern on it. So yeah, I knitted that. That is knitted in the original yarn that it was designed in, which is Auchen DK by Black Isle Yarns. Light DK by Black Isle Yarns. The colours are indigo, this is the undyed har colourway, and this is Rowdenberry. How cute are these pom-poms? So yeah, this is actually going to be part of the prize bundle, first prize bundle for the Coorie In MAL. It was meant to come with mittens, but there is a tail of wool there, entirely of my own making. I had bought this little set here. I don't know if it tells you on it. This was a set that it came with, and it was for knitting this pattern. Now, I assumed, I did not look at the yardage or the meterage even, I just assumed that it was for the cowl and the mittens. It turns out I think it was just for the mittens, although I got the cowl out of it. So when I went to start knitting the mittens, I thought, this looks a bit tight, but I'll just go for it and see what happens. So this is what happened. I got this far on one mitten, so I have just got to Kitchener at the top here, and I've still got to do a thumb, and then this would be another little tie like you have at the top of the cowl. But this is how much blue I have left, and this is how much of the undyed I have left. So this is not going to finish the project. So yeah, don't assume assumptions. Yeah, so that never happened. I do need to pull it all out, but we're into spring now and I don't need to be knitting on this. So I will pull it out and I will probably remake them at a future date. It is really joyful and really nice. It's on a tight gauge, so it's very windproof because you've got the double layer with the colour work, so it's stranded colour work. So yeah, that's a little tale of woe. I sometimes make very stupid mistakes. In fact, I quite often make very stupid mistakes. So yeah, that was the next thing that I worked on. After that, I don't have it with me, but I worked on a hot water bottle cover for my sister, and it's something I had been wanting to do for a while, and I was trying to find a pattern that I could put another another colourwork chart into, because I really like the halibut cowl pattern by Caitlin Hunter, and I had that in my library quite a while ago. And then Leanne of the Knitty Stew podcast, she was running a halibut along. No, and it was called Just for the Halibut, if I remember rightly. So I thought, Right, this is my excuse. I'm not gonna use one of the normal patterns for the halibut, but I will use the chart. So I inserted it into Kate Davies' Poachy, I think it's called. I've never heard that word in my life, so I don't know what it is. Is it pokey or poachy? But I'll have all the details linked down below. So I'll put a picture in of the finished object. I was using up leftovers. I used Dereram Natura, what's it called? The Sport Weight Ulysse in the colourway Érable. I had some leftovers of that from a previous project, and I also used more of the Black Veil Yarns Auchen, but this was the Sport Weight in the undyed Har colourway. I had to totally reinvent the Kate Davies pattern because the gauge was completely different. The gauge for that is like a worsted weight, and this was a sport weight. So anyway, I had the picture up of what I did. I was really chuffed with it, but while I was making it, I was knitting on double pointed needles. I've got no idea what I did to myself, but I really hurt this finger. So much so that like even just touching it like that was sore. So I couldn't knit for a few days. So that was the excuse I needed to finally work on the embroidery that I had spoken about in my last episode. So this was an embroidery kit from a company called Hawthorne Handmade, I think. It's one of these ones where they come with a printed design on the fabric and then instructions for what types of stitches to work. Don't know if you can see, there are some different ones, so that's a different kind of stitch. There was an awful lot of back stitch, which was quite dull. That's all back stitch. And there's some satin stitch here. This was like a twisty. Don't think you can see it. But yeah, I was really chuffed with that. So much so that when I finished, I thought, oh, I'm really inspired by this. I think I'm going to make one for every season and change it. I'll have it up in my sitting room and I'll change it every season. But that enthusiasm waned into realism when I thought, well, the only reason I worked on this at all was because I had a knitting injury. So what are the chances I'm actually going to work on another one, even though I enjoyed it a lot? So I've been a bit more sensible, and I think this one looks really good in this room. You can see against that, it's really nice. So I think I will stick with this. It's meant to be winter foliage, but I reckon it looks nice all year round. So in the meantime, until one day I do make other ones, this is what's going to be on my wall. The kit was fine. It had everything you needed. I would say that it was a bit boring because it was mostly backstitch, and also the hoop that it came with was too small. I had to buy a new hoop that was an inch bigger because the one it came with like cut off some of this while you were working on it, which was not ideal, and obviously no use for final display. But yeah, something a bit different, so that's what I worked on as well. And I can't remember when this happened. I think actually this maybe happened before the cowl, but I also knitted a pair of gloves. So I had lost my gloves, my hand knitted gloves that I made a few years ago. I had lost them just ahead of Christmas. I've since found them. They were down a bit of my down the side of my passenger seat, but it took me a few weeks to find them, and it was the middle of winter and I really needed some gloves, and I had been planning to make these anyway, so they got moved up my queue. So I knitted these, and this is the, what's it called? Fence Hill gloves, I think, by Emily Poulsen. Lovely Emily gave this pattern to me as a gift. I hope if you're watching, hi, thank you. And yeah, so I knitted this. and finished it, like I think it was the first thing I finished this year, and I've still, this is what it looks like on the inside. I still haven't woven in my ends because I refound my gloves and the need for them kind of fell by the wayside. But I really do, these ones are not so problematic, I'm sure they'll fail themselves, but I do need to tie in these ones at the fingertips or my fingers are going to be poking through. But yeah, they're really beautiful. I mean, you can't see it so well here, but this is like a exceptionally dark navy, and that is from Berlin Yarn Company, so that is a Hebridean yarn, and the rest is Jameson and Smith and Jameson's of Shetland. I can't remember the details, I'll put them all down below, or I'll link them to my project page which has all the details. But I had this background colour and then 1, 2, 3 other colours. The pattern itself has a really interesting colour work, what's this called, cuff, but I didn't use it, I just worked that part. And then the palm looks like this. So yeah, it's beautiful. Here are the floats for anyone who's interested in that sort of thing. It hasn't been blocked yet. I forgot to show you my floats from the other one. There you go. This is the quite neat, I think. And yeah, I think that's all the works in progress I wanted to speak about. Not works in progress, finished objects. Since then I kind of moved into baby knits and mindless knitting. I've got a friend who has recently had a baby and I got very overexcited because I think it's probably going to be the last baby of my compatriots. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're getting on a bit, so yeah, so I've been very much enjoying baby knits and I've been having a wee bit of a stressful time lately, so I have been working very much on mindless, just stock and stitch, round and round and round, not thinking, not making any decisions. It's been lovely. And the light has gone really bad. I need to speak about my the only other work in progress I was going to tell you about. Let's see if I can change how things are looking a wee bit. The blinding light is now on this side. I'm really sorry if it's off-putting. I'm not sorry, I'm not going to apologise for the sun being out because it is wonderful to see it. But yeah, hope it's not too distracting. So yeah, let's go on to works in progress. As I said, I have been working on a whole pile of baby knits and things, but I'm not going to chat about them or we will be here all day. Instead, I will talk about this one, which is Smokey, I think it's called, by Kate Davies. I am knitting this in Guernsey Gold from Caithness Yarns, and it is an absolute joy to knit with. It's so lovely. The stitch definition is incredible. This really needs to be blocked. It's gonna come out like about there, I think. Like these bits here need to be square, so they're gonna come out like that. Yeah, I was going great guns with this until I got distracted with the baby knits, and also I'm not sure if the fit is going to be correct. I added extra length to this, but I'm not sure if I added enough. I also think this bit here might be a bit too deep, so I kind of got to the point where I was going to have to make decisions and I didn't want to. So but yeah, the pattern is wonderful. It comes in very few sizes, and this is the smallest size, and this is going to, supposedly, is going to block out to about 52 inches. I'm sceptical about that, to be honest. I think I have, am I on a slightly smaller gauge? I don't think so. I think when I did my gauge swatch I was pretty much spot on. Or maybe just like half a stitch off or something. But yeah, I don't really have any excuse for why this is not progressing other than it needing some brain space. Yeah, it's really lovely. Another problem with it is bottom up, which is absolutely not my favourite way of knitting because you can't try it on, and it's all well and good saying this is the measurement to your underarm, but you don't know how deep that underarm is going to be. And on the pattern schematic, it only tells you this measurement, which is actually going to be halfway down your arm. It doesn't tell you your shoulder down. And you'll see that there's shoulder shaping and decreases. Well, it's not decreases, it's short rows that have meant that's going to go up there. But yeah, the other reason I'm not working on it so much now is it is starting to look a little bit more like spring outside, and this is going to be quite a warm and thick garment, so yeah, the motivation has kind of left me. But I will work on it again when I've got a little bit more brain space to make decisions. So yeah, that is my work in progress. I will tell you about future plans in my next video. Now that I'm emerging from hibernation, I'm feeling quite inspired to share what worked for me last year in terms of my crafting and how I approached it, and I think I'll maybe share a bit about what my plans are for the following year. My year does not start in January. I am very much in hibernation in January, and I don't even start thinking about what I want to do next until we're kind of halfway through February. So yeah, this seems like the natural start to the year for me, and I would be quite keen to kind of chat through some things that worked for me last year because I think they could be helpful for others as well. Yeah, so that is all of the crafting, and I'm going to move on now to announce the winners of the Coorie In MAL. So if you're leaving me now, thank you so much for listening to this stream of consciousness ramble, and I hope that I will be back in your company very soon. If you are interested in joining me in October, please, please, please do get in touch. I would love to meet you, and in the meantime, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Finally, let's chat Coorie In MAL. So firstly, a massive thank you to anyone who took part. It was really, really lovely to see your entries popping up over on Instagram. But thanks also to those of you who emailed in, because I got a few entries that way. There have already been 3 participation prizes that have been won. So those were a copy of a pattern of your choosing from Nancy Wheeler, who is Knit Sip Happy. She had really generously donated 3 patterns, or codes for patterns, back yonks ago, which was really kind of her. So thank you, Nancy, it was really appreciated. Everyone who won one of your sock patterns was having a really difficult time choosing. So yeah, that's testament to your great designing skills. Yeah, so those have already gone out. Now I'm going to be announcing the winners from the finished object thread. If you haven't been following on the community thread here or on Instagram, you won't have seen the prizes. So the first prize was this cowl, hand knitted by me in Black Oil Yarns, Auchin, Light DK, and a beautiful pattern from Alex of Hen in a Glen. So it was this, and also this candle here that says Coorie. This is, oh, it's got some fluff. This is from a company based down near Glasgow. It smells delicious. It's an aromatherapy candle and soya based, so it's not going to be choking up your lungs with horrible petroleum type tars. And anyway, this wee bundle here has been worn by, now what side are we putting it on now? This side. So that is worn by Vicky B76. So congratulations, Vicky. Thank you for taking part, and if you just get in touch with me by email or by Instagram direct message, either is fine, but if you just give me your postal address, that would be fantastic. So yeah, this will be winging its way to you as soon as you get in touch. So that was the first prize. The second prize is a book that I picked up a wee while ago for this make along. It's called Seasonal Slow Knitting. I just thought it was perfect for a make along that is all about slowing down and enjoying the cozy. So I got this a wee while ago, and I've also paired it with this beautiful hank of yarn from Black Girl Yarns again. This was actually donated by a lovely viewer who is called Teacher Mum Knits on Instagram. I think it's Kaylee. Poor Kaylee, she won this ages ago. She won a prize for a voucher for Black Girl Yarns, and she chose this and then discovered that she's allergic to alpaca. So this is Julie's BFL Surrey Alpaca blend, and it is in the colourway Harvest Gold. So it's naturally dyed with rhubarb, fustic and quebrancho red. So yeah, it's a really lovely, it's like heathered, it's got dark bits in it as well as the lovely gold colour. So yeah, poor Kaylee ended up donating this bag because she couldn't use it. So yeah, that makes up this prize. Thank you so much, Kaylee, for your generosity. And the winner of this one is Photo3P on Instagram, and that is Karen. Now, Karen had the most beautiful entries every week. She had a different pair of socks, and they're just absolutely spectacular. So she's worth a follow if you want to get a beautiful, if you like a beautiful aesthetic to your pictures, then Karen is the one to follow. So congratulations, Karen. And if you get in touch with me either by Instagram direct message or by email, and just give me your postal address. Oh, I'm struggling here. Thank goodness we're almost over. Yeah, so congratulations. And finally, we have a very Black Girl Yarns heavy prize bundle this year, but these two were very generously donated by Julie of Black Girl Yarns, and I am not doing them justice with this lighting, but these are Auchen Light DK, so this is the same yarn that I knitted the cowl in, and these are Alpenglow 2. They have been dyed with madder. I wonder if, no, that's quite good. That's quite good colouring. So Julie says that this is enough for like a Sophie shawl. The meterage is 250 metres per 95 gram hank. So you've got 500 metres there, just plenty enough to make something with. So yeah, these beauties are going to be heading to Knocked4 on Instagram, who is Denise. So congratulations, Denise. And like the others, if you get back in touch with me either through email or Instagram direct message with your postal address, I will get these into the post for you as soon as possible. Yeah, so that's us. We have reached the end. I'm going to leave you before you're blinded by this light any further. And I hope to be back on your screens in a more regular capacity very soon. I have things to share and I'm keen to do so. So, in the meantime, thank you so much for following along. Thank you so much for all your comments. Thank you so much for taking part in the make along. You are definitely appreciated. And I hope that the next wee while you have some enjoyable times with your crafting. Take care of yourselves and see you soon. Bye.